We lost a great scholar over the weekend, which sucks. On 2nd of February, 2025, Professor Ian Maddieson passed away. It's a loss. It's unfortunate. Death is sad and frustrating and many other things. This video is meant to be fun and interesting. So instead of being maudlin, let's talk about one of Maddison's papers that I thought did something really cool. I'm Will, and you're watching Thinking Linguistically. I didn't know Ian Maddieson especially well. I had the privilege of meeting him once at a conference, a long story, but he did train a lot of the people that I really admire. I would say he first came to my attention as the author of Sounds of the World's Languages, together with Peter Ladefoged. This was a great book that described all of the weird and wonderful sounds that are out there in all of the wild languages of the world. Big influence on me. The paper I'm going to talk about today is called Collapsing Vowel Harmony and Doubly Articulated Fricatives, Two Myths About the Phonology of Avatime. Avatime is a language from Ghana. I think it's one of the Ghana-Togo mountain languages. The people who speak the language also don't call it Avatime, they call it Sia or Siase. But I don't speak it, so I'm going to call it the name that it has in the literature. You can find more about it in more recent work by Blake Lehman, by Saskia van Putten, and by Rebecca Defina. Probably others. Those are just the things I know about. I'm also going to focus only on one of the two myths in this paper, the doubly articulated fricatives. One of the interesting things about Avatime is that it has a sort of bigger than average inventory of bilabial, velar, and labial-velar sounds. Here's the list that Maddieson gives. So there's bilabial plosives, p and b, bilabial fricatives, one of which is borrowed, so it's parentheses, that's f and v. Then velar, k, g, and ch, r. And then also these labial-velar guys, so p, b, and w. Now, labial-velar sounds like these are sort of weird cross-linguistically. They are real common in some parts of the world, so like West Africa and Papua New Guinea, and real rare in like the rest of the world, where the only labial-velar you find is w. If you go to, Ghana, Nigeria, places like that, you'll find that the p and b are all over the place, to the point that like in Yoruba, when you write p, it's actually pronounced p, like there's a k there. It's a labial-velar, because they don't have a regular plain p. Now, Avatime, according to previous descriptions, goes a step further. It doesn't just have labial-velar stops like p and b. This one description by Ford says that it also has fricatives. F and v is how they transcribe these. What that sounds like, I don't know. Multiply articulated consonants are like a little bit weird. The typical way that we conceive of a consonant is it has one point of articulation. So there's one place in the vocal tract where like airflow is constricted, and that has acoustic consequences, and so you get a sound. Doubly articulated ones are like then two consonants at the same time. Fricatives are sounds that are made by bringing articulators close together, but not all the way, so you don't make a complete obstruction. You just sort of close enough that there's an acoustic consequence. So this is like a f as opposed to a p, or a s, an s sound as opposed to a t sound. From that, the problem with a doubly articulated fricative kind of emerges. So if you're going to have one particular spot in the vocal tract where you're creating frication, well, then you need elevated air pressure behind it. But in order to get that, you need sort of high pressure from the lungs, which means that you don't really have the opportunity to add a second closure and a second high pressure area behind that. Point being, we have a sort of theoretical reason to think that these sounds should be trouble to produce, should be dispreferred cross-linguistically. And they are! But then what about Avatime? Let's dive into that. So what this paper does is Maddieson recorded audio and video of the same couple of speakers with visual enhancements. They had these little dots attached to their lips to make them easier to locate in an individual video frame. Looking ridiculous for science. When you do that, you can see a difference that I guess eluded previous descriptions. So what you're about to see is two side-by-side sounds from Avatime. What I've done is basically splice the still frames that are given in the paper together to make a little GIF. Because Maddison's a good scientist, he also carefully selected these tokens. So they are both recordings of a person saying ah, then the consonant, then another ah. So ava, ava, that kind of thing. Why ah? Well, because we don't want to see the tongue doing other stuff that's going to interfere. If we're interested in the consonant only, then we want sort of the most milquetoast vowel possible next to it. So what's the video show? Well, it shows that the lips are actually doing two different things in the two different sounds, right? In the one case, they're making basically a slit, which allows frication. And in the other case, they're sort of jutting out. They're rounding. So Ladefoged and Maddieson sort of predicted that this category of sound should be impossible as a normal speech sound. It shouldn't be able to have two fricatives at the same time. And then that claim seems to be contradicted by Ford's description of Avatime. But when you look closer at the facts of the language, what you find is actually the lips are doing two different things. For fricatives, they're making a slit. For these other quote-unquote doubly articulated guys, we're really getting a fricative from the back of the mouth, but with lip rounding. Two different kinds of sounds. Those two examples are voice fricatives. The paper doesn't give full frame breakdowns for the voiceless ones, but you can still see the frame that sort of shows the most constriction is a clearly different type of constriction. I also don't know who the guy in the image is. I'm guessing it might be Chris Bubwama. Whoever it is, we owe them our thanks for furthering linguistic research. One of the reasons I love this paper is it does an elegant job of showing how easy it is to make progress at some kinds of things, right? These are two guys sitting in a room analyzing the phonetics of their language, doing high-grade research with stickers and a video camera. It seems like high-speed camera footage of random stuff is like a genre that's on YouTube. And I don't know, part of me wishes that like someone with a high-speed camera would do this kind of thing. Because the lips are weird and they do weird stuff. And we don't really understand how they interact with non-lippy sounds. Keep working on it, maybe we'll get there. I'll put links to the paper and some other resources in the thingamabob underneath. Take a look at Sounds of the World's Languages. Great book. I'm Will, and this has been Thinking Linguistically. If you want to support the channel, you can like and subscribe and hit that bell icon. I don't know what the hell it does. It doesn't ring. YouTube seems to like it, though. Keep on running up that hill.